Hi, I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of ArtByRow.com, where you can find over 200 art and drawing tutorials. We cover things like art fundamentals, creativity, graffiti art, how to draw different things. So if you're a hobby artist who's looking for something to help you improve your art and drawing skills, head on over there. That's ArtByRow.com. Or follow us here, like and subscribe, and you'll get notified when there's any new videos that come up. Happy creating! I'll see you over in the art studio. Today we're going to be drawing a Volkswagen van, or I think sometimes they refer to them as buses, but I call them a van. That looks more like a van, but anyway, I'm going to draw this on an artist trading card. If you haven't been following me, I love drawing my artwork on artist trading cards because it saves a ton of time and I can do a lot more art in a shorter amount of time. I can get them done pretty quickly, and I can also store them in binders. There's sleeves that the cards fit right into, and then when I'm ready I can trade them to other artists for their artwork, which I really love doing. So there's a lot of benefits to doing the artist trading cards. There's a lot of benefits to working small. So something to keep in mind, especially if you struggle to make time for your artwork. It's a really good option. So it's something you definitely should consider. So the way I want to draw this is it's going to be a front view, and I want it to take up most of this card, almost like it's kind of driving off towards us. I'm not really going to try creating that illusion, but sort of that concept of it driving towards us. So normally I like to block everything out into shapes, but because this is taking up the majority of the card, that's a little more difficult to do. So I'm going to start this one off by putting the bumper in where it needs to go, which is going to be fairly low down on the paper. And hopefully you can see that. Looks like it's picking it up okay. Then the next thing I can do is draw the tires, and I want them to be placed fairly closely to the same distance from the edge of the bumper. One thing I really stress to anybody who follows me is that you shouldn't be super focused on everything being perfect and not having any type of mistakes at all. I think oftentimes people get too hung up on that. So when you're doing your drawings, you're making your tires and whatever, if they're not exactly 100% perfect, I wouldn't stress out about it. These drawings are for fun. We're not trying to sell them. We're not doing them as a commission. It's just something for fun. So things don't have to be perfect. Just have fun, enjoy it. If you start stressing too much about everything being perfect and trying to find every little mistake that you make, it really takes the enjoyment out of it. So if you can, try to just enjoy the process, and sometimes things being a little crooked or quirky or whimsical is actually a lot more fun. So focus on just enjoying your creative time and having fun. So the next thing we're going to do is bring this up and around. We want these edges to be rounded off. And again, this is a little lopsided. That's okay. You don't have to worry about it being perfect. This is the bottom part of the windshield. And you can try, if something's off a little bit, it's not symmetrical and it bothers you, clean it up. If it doesn't bother you, like I said, sometimes it's actually kind of cute to have them a little wonky looking. Just depends on your style. But so here's the bottom part of the windshield. I'm gonna go ahead and draw the entire frame of it, even though we're gonna split the window. Go ahead and draw the whole thing, and you could also leave it just like that if you want. We want to show where our center line is, just to help us keep things even. We're going to draw that window coming in a little bit from that center line, and then that one coming in a little bit from the center line. And then that will get erased. Okay, so there's our windows. The next thing we need to do is work on all these front details. So there is a shape that comes from sort of right here, so you could put a little line to indicate where that's coming from. And it comes up right below the window. So we can draw that in there and then just mirror it on the other side. And you can make this come more to a point if you want. Kind of like that. Now we need to put in some lights. So we'll start with the headlights. And then just kind of try to keep everything as symmetrical as possible, but without worrying too much about it being 100% perfect. For one thing, it seems like no matter how hard you try to get things really perfect, all you do is end up driving yourself nuts, because if you're drawing things freehand, it's often very difficult to get things exactly perfect anyway, so to me it's not worth even stressing out about it. All that does is takes the enjoyment out of it, which defeats the entire purpose of doing the drawings to begin with. So keep it fun, keep it relaxing. So we have the lights. You can add more lights if you want. You could do more detail down here in the bumper. If you wanted to, you could add a little license plate down in here. You could add extra bumper pieces if you wanted. That's up to you. Whatever details you want to add, you could add more in there. And then we need to put in our mirrors. And your mirrors can be, you can make them more or less detailed depending on the kind of the style you're going for, I guess, if you're drawing, how you like to work. So the mirror's going to come up. And you want to try to keep them fairly symmetrical. This one needs to be a little lower. You can make the mirrors rectangles, you can make them more rounded. You can make them oval shape. You can make them go in more horizontal. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure what type of mirrors these vans actually have on them. If you care, you could look up a drawing or a photo of one and see what the mirrors actually look like on them. To me, it's not that important. Like I said, I'm not drawing anything that's commissioned, or not trying to draw an accurate illustration. So to me, those things aren't very important. I'm sure car guys would totally disagree, but I'm not that much into cars. So now we have all the basic details done. If you wanted to add some little indication of tread on the tire, you could. I'm just putting some little squiggly lines in there. And then the final thing is to put in the oh so popular Volkswagen logo, emblem, whatever this thing's called here on the front. So we're going to draw a nice big circle, because if you draw it too small, it's going to be hard to see it. So I'm drawing it slightly larger than it actually would be proportionally to the van. That's completely intentional because I want this to be somewhat the focal point. So I'm going to draw that side coming down, and then repeat that right there. All right, so take my page out of the way. Hopefully you can see that. So there's our basic drawing. And then the next step is going to be to do some outlining with our outlining pen. So for the outline, I'm going to use just my medium tip Sharpie pen, black. You could also use a brush pen, which makes really, really nice line work. The downside to the brush pen is that it takes a little bit of practice to get used to using it, because the way the tip is, the harder you push down, the wider your line's going to be. And that takes some getting used to controlling it, and also to try to figure out what kind of style you want for your outlines. But when you're using the brush pen, once you get it down, the outline looks really, really nice. But you don't have that opportunity to kind of build up the areas. Like when I'm using this style of pen, if I want to go back and make any of my lines darker or wider, then I can just go back over top of it and make it a little wider. With a brush pen, it's more like you just have one shot at it, so you got to get it right the first time, which can be pretty intimidating. But if that's something that you're interested in, I think it's definitely worth exploring. Get yourself a brush pen, start playing around with it. I used to use them a lot in my artwork many years ago, and then I took a break for a little while. I got busy and wasn't making my creative time a priority, which I now regret. But back in the past, I used to use a brush pen pretty much exclusively for my outlines, and it's something I'd really like to get back to. So I definitely think that using the brush pen is a great option. But again, it's just something that you might have to practice it a little bit. So I'm just going over all of the pencil lines that I want to keep. I think I will put a license plate in here. Adds a little bit of character. Maybe put some kind of lettering on it. Maybe put groovy or something in there, might be fun. For the headlights, I'm doing 2 circles around it to show that frame that's around the edge of the headlight. You can put some lines in there if you want. Same thing with the windshield. Sometimes on windshield there's the little reflection lines. That's completely your choice if that's something you want to do or not. And then from here, if you wanted to go in and add some thickness to some of your lines, you could. And that's one of the things that I like about using that type of pen, is that you have more control over which lines you want thin, which ones you want thick. So now I'm just taking the eraser, getting rid of all the pencil lines I don't want. And there is our outline of our van, our little Volkswagen van. These make really cute cards. They're a lot of fun. And then now we are going to add some color to it. Okay, so we're back to color in our Volkswagen van drawing. We got everything outlined. You can go in and make some of your lines thicker. Often it'll look a little bit more interesting if you vary the line weights a little bit. And normally what you would do is make the lines thicker where there might be shadows. You don't really have to put too much thought into it, but if you can add some thickness in there, sometimes it makes it look a little bit nicer, or you can just leave it all fairly consistent with the line weights. So I have a variety of different kinds of markers. I like the Bic markers. I have some Prismacolor that I don't really care for, but I've had them a long time. They're the first markers that I bought when I originally started getting into doing some graffiti art and learning how to use markers. But they'll all work together. You can use any kind of markers together. You just want to make sure they're alcohol based so that they'll blend. You can blend them together and make nice transitions with your colors. Okay, so I'm going to make my van this aqua color. And what I typically do is use a scrap piece of paper. And I'll try my two different colors on here to make sure that they're going to blend together without leaving a real hard edge. So the way I work is to fill in the lightest color first. And I will typically do the entire area with the lighter color. You could also do the darker color first and then fill in around it with the lighter color. Your markers will look different because they're somewhat transparent. So if you put a dark color over the light color, part of that lighter color will blend in and still be there. Or if you put a really dark color down and try to do a light color over top of it, it's not gonna, you can't cover up a light color, or you can't cover up a dark color with a light color. So now I'm gonna take the darker color and add it at the bottom there where there's gonna be some shadow. And then I'm just gonna add some, it's a little bit random. I want it to be consistent, but we're not really worrying too much about where our shadows are going to be and our lighting and all those sorts of things. You can if you want to get that detailed with your drawing, but if you're a hobby artist like I am and you're just doing your artwork because it's fun and relaxing and you enjoy it, then you don't really need to worry that much about all the shadows and lighting and which direction it's coming from and all those sorts of things that can sometimes just add unneeded pressure to your creative time. And I like to keep my creative time as relaxing and enjoyable as possible. And I think if you start putting a bunch of pressure on yourself to make things perfect and, you know, trying to follow the the principles of art, which is good, and it's good to know about them and understand them. But I don't know, I really just think it's not necessary all the time to try to worry about that when you're making your artwork. And that's only because, like I said, if you're a hobby artist and you're not trying to make a living with your art, and you're not trying to be in shows, and you're not trying to sell anything or get commissions or be in a gallery or anything like that, then it's really not necessary to be too crazy with what you're doing. And really, if you're just doing it for your own benefit, if you choose to never learn the fundamentals of art, then I don't think there's a problem with it, because you're only doing it for your own enjoyment. Then no one's going to really know anyway. So that's my view on art and how much you want to get into the technical sides of it. I don't think it's necessary for everyone. So what I'm doing is the same thing like what I did with the aqua color, is to just use a couple colors, and I recommend always using 2 or 3. So I have this orange, and I'm using a lighter and a darker orange. I tested it out on my paper first to make sure it was going to blend. You can use 2 colors, 3 colors. If I'm working on my artist trading cards, a lot of the time I'll use 2, because it's sometimes hard to get 3 colors in there. And most of the time I'm not spending hours working on my art. I might just take 5 or 10 minutes in the morning before I have to leave for work and try to get some creative time in. So it's a little bit quicker if you use 2 markers instead of 3. I would say avoid using only 1. If you're only using 1 marker, it will make your drawings look a little bit more flat, which is okay if that's the look you're going for. But if you want to add a little bit of depth to your drawings, you can really easily do that just by using a couple different colors for your markers. The other thing I should mention is that when you're blending your colors, you need to make sure you're working while the marker's still wet, or it won't blend. Once it dries and the alcohol evaporates, then it's not going to blend anymore. So that's why, even though I'm using the same marker for different areas, I'm working back and forth to make sure that it doesn't dry out before I get back in there to do my blending. And they make colorless blenders that you can use, but I usually just go back over it with the lighter color. I put the light color down, the darker color, and then I go back over it with the lighter color again to blend it. And I've had people ask me before if the marker will transfer to the other marker, and it won't. If you use a dark color and a light color together, the darker color won't transfer to your marker. Or even if you use a different color. If I took this light gray and went over top of the orange, it's not going to pick up the orange on the marker and transfer to the marker. So you don't have to worry about that. You can use the gray for shading too if you want. Like I just went over top the orange with the gray just to kind of tie in that license plate a little bit with the bumper. So as far as the white area goes, you can leave it white or you can add some gray to it. I think I'm just going to leave this one white. And as you can see, this is a really simple drawing. It's not taking a ton of time. If you're a beginner and you just want to do something cute and fun, this is a really nice drawing for that. So from here, you could do some kind of background. You could, if you wanted to, you could maybe draw in like a road, indication of a road underneath it, so it's not just floating. Go ahead and use your outliner for it. You can make gravel or whatever you wanted to do down there. One thing that I do quite a bit is I will take a color that I like, which actually I think I want to use maybe a purple for the outline. Trying to find a nice purple. So I can take this purple and just make what I call a halo around the edge. And all I'm doing is just making a fairly thin line all the way around the outside edge. You could also fill the entire background in with color or a combination of colors. You could add some kind of scenery to the background. Maybe draw like kind of a beach scene with a sunset. There's a lot of different options you could do. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do stuff. It's your artwork, do whatever you want, which is another really great thing about doing the artist trading cards. Because they're so small and they can be done so quickly, you have that little bit of freedom to try different things, and if it doesn't work out and you don't like it, do another one. If it's only taken you, 20 minutes or whatever it would take to finish this if I wasn't talking while I'm doing it, it wouldn't take that long to do. I could knock out a bunch of these and do a series of them fairly quickly. And that gives me more opportunity to try different things and experiment because I don't have a ton of time invested in it. So now I'm just adding a couple little highlights in it just to break up the color a little bit, and I'm using a white Jelly Roll pen. It works really, really great over markers. And I'll move that so that's not distracting from it. There's the finished drawing. And I hope you guys are motivated and inspired to try doing some of your own. If you do, I'd love to see them. Let me know. I'd like to see what you come up with. And I hope you all have a wonderful day and happy creating. So how was it? I hope you enjoyed this little video on how to draw a Volkswagen van. There's a lot of different things you can use these drawings for. I like doing them on artist trading cards, or you could do them in your graffiti art, or whatever else you can think of. I hope you had fun. If you did, like and subscribe, and be sure to head over to artbyro.com and check out all of our other tutorials that we have. I'll see you soon. Happy creating!